Exposed. Cops' heartwarming twist as they discover their new boss is the victim they framed. Jake Harris had always been Maplewood's golden boy. With his chiseled jawline, warm smile, and unwavering commitment to justice, he loved being a cop. The small-town officers respected him. Families embraced him. At the annual Maple Festival, parents pointed him out to their kids, inspiring them with dreams of heroism. But deep down, there lurked a shadow, a secret that threatened to unravel his world. He'd just been promoted to sergeant, a dream come true. The sensation of pride bubbled in his chest, but it was a bittersweet taste. Little did he know, the very essence of that pride would soon come crashing to the ground. When he learned that Captain Lisa Reynolds, the woman stepping into his new role, was the one they had framed years ago for a crime she didn't commit, the walls of his heart tightened. Every laugh and cheer echoed back, juxtaposed by the wreckage of his past. "Jake, you okay?" Sarah, his wife, put her hand over his. It was like she could feel the cold grip of regret tightening around him, and he couldn't find the words. All he could hear was the murmur of judgment that rose in the community. What had they done? How did they pilfer away an innocent woman's life, and now expect everyone to forget? Coffee shop chatter faded into whispers. "Did you hear about Reynolds? You think it's true?" Heartache was painted on every face. He was often greeted with cheers, but now he encountered cold shoulders and furrowed brows, mixed emotions tangled in disbelief and betrayal. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake strolled through the diner that had been a second home. The air was thick with nostalgia, yet the laughter of kids playing twisted into sobs of her unkempt past. "Hey, Jake." Old Mr. Thompson waved, but his brow was creased. "Good luck with that meeting." Even the casual greetings felt like slow daggers, piercing through the rising tensions of the town. It felt like an unhealed wound drawing closer to a breaking point. When the town hall meeting loomed, Jake wrestled with an unbearable urge for redemption. Would the townsfolk even listen? Was forgiveness possible? He steeled himself, rehearsing what he would say to Lisa when he faced her that night. As he entered the building, he locked eyes with her. Pain and resolve flickered across her face, each holding a story that stretched back in time. Jake was acutely aware of how his heart pounded a war drum in the stillness of the crowd, buzzing with anticipation. This moment was pivotal. Could he bear the weight of her forgiveness? Would the love and hope that enveloped the town endure the fracture that had come to light? The air was electric, and only time would tell if it could stitch back together. The room felt like a pressure cooker, every eye locked on Jake. The whispers faded as he took a deep breath, the weight of responsibility crashing over him. Could he be the voice of change? Could he offer the apology that Lisa deserved? Everyone. His voice trembled slightly, and he winced. The badge on his chest felt heavier than ever. He glanced at Lisa, her expression a mix of resilience and vulnerability. He had seen her navigate the tumultuous waters of his career. Now he was navigating his own. "Tonight, I want to talk about Captain Lisa Reynolds," he began, his voice gaining strength with each syllable. "For too long, we let her down. We let our judgment cloud our compassion." A murmur swept through the crowd, confusion mixed with curiosity. She was wrongfully accused, and we owe her the truth. Lisa's eyes widened, surprise flickering like a candleless flame. He felt a surge of adrenaline, his heartbeat sinking to the shared anticipation of the community. He continued, "I stand before you not just as a sergeant, but as a man who regrets his part in this. We all believed the rumors, but that wasn't justice. That was cowardice. From the back, a voice piped up. You think we'll just forget it? That she can be our captain again? It was Tom, an officer who had always held high standards. The tension thickened. Tom, I get it, Jake replied, his heart racing. None of us can just forget. But we can change. We can acknowledge our mistakes and build back the trust we've shattered. Doesn't she deserve that chance, just like everyone here deserves redemption? Faces in the crowd shifted, uncertainty battling with the glimmer of hope Jake had sparked. He could see parents questioning whether they were honoring the legacy of justice or tarnishing the very badge they wore. A hand shot up. It was Sarah, her expression raw but steady. Jake, how can we help her if you stay silent about your role in this? Her question landed like a punch. The room held its breath. I know I can't erase my mistakes. I can only promise to make it right. I will support Lisa, and I will face the consequences of my past. He met her gaze, finding steadiness in her love. Together, we can rebuild brick by brick, day by day. The crowd's mood shifted, less hostility, more curiosity. Lisa took a tentative step forward, her voice breaking. Jake, I appreciate you standing up for me. But it's not just about me. It's about the families that felt the brunt of our decisions. They deserve answers. Yes, Jake agreed, nodding at her. If you're willing to lead us together, we will hear those stories. We'll bring them into the light together. Nods of agreement started to pop up in the sea of faces. Perhaps forgiveness was as far-fetched as they believed. Old wounds could heal, and shadows might dissipate. Jake felt a spark ignite within. This wasn't just about saving his own skin anymore. It was about healing a community. The road would be rough, and he wasn't sure where it led, but there was one thing he knew: every step on this path required courage, not just from him, but from everyone. As Lisa stepped to the forefront, ready to address the crowd with a profound strength he hadn't witnessed before, he sensed a crucial juncture approaching. The audience leaned in, hearts open, ready to listen. But what they didn't expect was the twist waiting just around the corner. Lisa took a deep breath, her hands gripping the podium. The silence was heavy, saturated with anticipation. Thank you, Jake, she said, her voice steady but raw. Thank you for your words, and for standing by me. But we also need to talk about the families who suffered because of our actions. They, too, deserve the truth. She scanned the crowd, and the faces began to morph from uncertainty to recognition. They shared the collective weight of guilt, memories of mistakes made, and judgments passed. Each person felt that familiar ache, the one that lingered long after the dust had settled. Jake watched as she continued, her resolve unwavering. We owe it to them to hold a forum, to hear their stories. Each person impacted by the decisions we made deserves a chance to speak, to reclaim their voices. The room started to feel electric. It was the kind of energy that lifts you, pushing you towards something bigger. He glanced at Sarah, her eyes gleaming with support. They both knew this was a turning point. This was the heart of what they needed to do. But from the corner of the room, Tom stood again, arms crossed. And what makes you think those families will trust us now? We crushed them once. Why would they risk it a second time? That's the risk we take, Lisa replied fiercely. Trust isn't given, it's earned. And if we are brave enough to show up and own our failures, maybe, just maybe, they will give us another chance. Jake felt the tremor in her words, both hopeful and desperate. The nodding crowd was shifting again, the air thick with possibility. He took a step closer to Lisa, feeling a surge of pride for her bravery. Without warning, the doors swung open, drawing everyone's attention. There, framed in the light, stood a woman with haunted eyes and disheveled hair. It was Emily, the sister of the man wrongly accused, the very family they had all failed. Lisa, she croaked, her voice trembling as she took a step inside. "I came to hear what you have to say." Gasps rose around the room. The gravity of her presence hit hard. Could this be the moment they had all feared? Or the turning point they desperately needed? "Emily," Lisa said gently, stepping down from the podium, her heart pounding as she approached the woman. "I know I can't erase the hurt. I can't change what happened. But I'm here to listen, and I'm here to make it right. What do you need from us?" The crowd shifted, holding their breath, all eyes on Emily. The silence dragged like a heavy anchor. Jake felt the sharp edge of hope and despair collide in him. Would Emily give them a chance? Would she finally be their bridge to the families they had wronged? Emily took a shaky breath, her lips pressed together. "What do I need? I need justice, but I also need to know if you really mean it. If you are willing to fight for change." The insinuation hung in the air, challenging. It was the critical moment they had all prayed for, but no one moved, no one dared to speak. Lisa finally stepped closer, her own heart laid bare, eyes sincere. "We will fight for it, Emily. All of us. Together." But just as hope began to ripple through the room, a voice from the back demanded, "And what if this was all a lie? What if it was just a ploy to distract us from the truth?" The room fell into chaos, voices clashing as old wounds threatened to resurface, and Jake realized the path ahead was fraught with more than just healing. It was now about survival. With his heart thumping wildly in his chest, he prepared to stand tall. But deep down, he wondered if they could truly transform anger into understanding, or if they would be swallowed whole by the very darkness they sought to escape. What other secrets lay hidden in their past, just waiting for the right moment to surface? As the murmurs intensified, a palpable tension filled the air. Faces turned from uncertain to confrontational, anger mingled with hope, creating a tempest of emotions. Jake glanced instinctively at Lisa, whose expression remained focused yet strained, as if she were trying to keep the ship steady amidst the raging storm. "We need to remember why we're here," she urged, raising her voice above the din. "This isn't about us. It's about the people we hurt." But her plea for calm seemed to fall flat. Emily stood rooted to the spot, her eyes darting between the chaos and Lisa. "You say you want to listen," she began hesitantly, her voice barely cutting through the noise. "But how do we know this won't just be another broken promise?" With determination coursing through her, Lisa pushed forward. "Because this time, we want to take responsibility. It won't be easy, but we're ready to face the consequences of our actions. We want to make this right not just in words, but in actions." Another voice rose from the back, a man with scarred hands and a fractured spirit. "And what if we don't want to hear it? What if your actions only deepen the wounds?" The room swelled with palpable grief, and the air grew heavy. These weren't just random voices. They were echoes of painful histories, and each word drove the knife deeper. Questions hung like heavyweights, bearing the weight of shared sorrows. Jake felt a part of him sink under that weight, but even through the despair, a flicker of light emerged. He could feel Lisa's strength, almost magnetic, pulling him back toward hope. "Listen," Jake shouted, cutting through the chaos. "We have to start somewhere. Yes, we have a lot to answer for, but if you give us a chance, we'll listen. We will fight for change not just because it's expected, but because we believe in it. We believe in you. Please let us try." For a split moment, silence fell, charged and electric. The crowd watched him, their expressions mixed, uncertainty battling with curiosity. Could they truly open themselves up again? Would they risk fragmenting their already fragile sense of security for the potential of healing? Emily's gaze softened, but it was quickly veiled as she took a step back. Actions speak louder than words. We need to see real change before any trust can be rebuilt, and that is going to take more than a few meetings and nice speeches. Jake nodded, as he felt the crowd's collective heartbeat throb in the air. "You're right. This isn't just about talking, it's about doing. Let us create a plan together, one that involves everyone willing to step forward. We can't rewind the past, but we can reshape the future. Amidst the rising tension, a woman from the side stood up, her eyes tired but resolute. What does that take? What are you willing to commit to? Her voice was tinged with hope yet laced with skepticism. We'll open the floor, Lisa said, her voice firm. We want to hear what you need and how we can help. We're willing to put the resources in, learn from experts, and conduct real investigations into what went wrong. This isn't a quick fix, it's a commitment. The crowd began to hum softly again, this time seeming less confrontational and more united in their uncertainty. It felt like the beginning of something monumental, maybe a path toward rebuilding the connection that had been destroyed. But just then, seconds before the murmurs could swell into dialogue, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. The doors burst open, and a man in a disheveled suit barged in, wild-eyed and breathless. "Lisa, you need to see this," he gasped, clutching a stack of papers in his hands. The atmosphere shifted again, instant surprise seeping through the crowd like chills as eyes turned to the newcomer. Jake felt a sinking feeling in his stomach. What now? He was desperate for clarity, but the uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Would this reveal pull them back from the edge of understanding, or push them further into the darkness? As the man stepped closer, Jake braced himself, fully aware that the truth could tear them apart, or maybe, just maybe, it would strengthen their resolve to make things right. What new revelations lay in store, waiting to twist their fate once again? Lisa's heart raced as the man approached. The crowd's eyes bore into him, each person waiting for a revelation. She could see the tremor in his hands as he held out the papers, a chaotic mix of desperation and urgency etched across his face. "What is it?" Lisa asked, her voice steady despite the uncertainty bubbling inside her. "What do you need to share?" "It's about the community. About the files we were supposed to hide," he stammered, glancing back at the crowd as if seeking their approval. "I received these from an anonymous source. It's all right here." He fanned through the papers before finding what he wanted. "There are accounts, testimonies from people who suffered because of our inactions. If these get out, it could destroy everything." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Jake sensed the tension rise again, a blend of anger and fear rekindling. He stepped in closer to Lisa, ready to support her in any way she needed. "Show us," Emily said, her voice sharper now. "Show everyone what you have." The room shifted, with all eyes trained on the man. He hesitated, clearly weighing the implications. "I don't know if it's smart or safe, but it's the truth." "Truth?" Lisa echoed, the word heavy with significance. "We're fighting for truth, aren't we? Then let us see it." With a deep breath, the man surrendered the papers, distributing copies to those closest to him. As they read, the atmosphere in the room shifted from anxious anticipation to raw shock. Jake could feel the room collectively hold its breath, the echoes of broken promises drawing them in even closer. "My God," someone whispered, wide-eyed, pushing the paper out toward the front. This is a list of victims." Jake's stomach churned. He glanced at Lisa, who was still scanning the sheet, her expression both horrified and resolute. "We can't ignore this," she said softly, almost to herself. She stood taller, determination flashing in her eyes. "This is the truth they deserve to hear. We need to face it head-on." But before she could elaborate, a voice piped up from the back, shaky and filled with pain. "You don't get it. You're one of the people responsible. How can we trust you to fix this?" Jake's heart sank again. He understood the anger, the betrayal. It pulsed through the crowd like a living thing, wrapping them in turmoil. Lisa raised her hands in a calming gesture, but the waves of emotion were already crashing over her efforts. "We're here because we want to make it right," she pleaded. "If it means facing our mistakes and the hurt we caused, then let us do it. We need to hear from everyone, not just the voices that are easy to listen to. We can't hide anymore." The crowd began to murmur again, some voices rising in agreement, while others clung tightly to their skepticism. The air crackled with uncertainty, a storm brewing in the collective heart of the room. Suddenly, a low voice called out from the crowd, "Then who will you listen to? If you're serious about this?" Silence blanketed the room, except for the rustling of papers. Jake felt the weight of history resting firmly on their shoulders. He exchanged glances with Lisa, and in that brief moment, a decision formed. They needed a path forward, but what would it take to get there? Jake held his breath, feeling the eyes of the crowd turning back toward him. "What if we set up an open forum?" he suggested, urgency creeping into his tone. "A space where everyone can share their experiences, good or bad. Let us give them a chance to voice their truths without fear of retribution." The man with the papers met his gaze, nodding slowly. That might be a beginning, at least. Jake stole a glance at Lisa, who was nodding as well, and he felt a surge of determination. This can't just be another meeting. It has to be real. As the crowd began to sway with the idea, hope mingled with fear, and the path ahead felt both daunting and exhilarating. But just then, a distant siren wailed outside, cutting through the murmur, a stark reminder that the repercussions of their past actions loomed closer. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Would they truly be able to face the music? What if the consequences were more than they were prepared to handle? He realized they stood on the edge of something monumental, and only time would tell if they would take the leap or fall. The siren's wail faded, leaving behind an unbearable silence. Eyes darted around the room, as if searching for a way out. Lisa could feel the heat of despair rising, a tangible, swirling mist that threatened to envelop them all. Jake's suggestion lingered in the air, both a beacon of hope and a daunting challenge. Could they truly open their hearts to the stories, the pain? An open forum, Lisa murmured, her mind racing. But how can we ensure they feel safe to speak? Maybe we should invite leaders from the community to facilitate? Jake proposed. People whom they trust. That could help, Emily chimed in, her voice steadier now, the earlier anger giving way to a more constructive energy. It needs to be a safe space, and we can't be the only ones there. As they discussed logistics, the crowd started to settle, uncertainty morphing into hesitant curiosity. It felt like a flickering candle, a tiny light in the heavy darkness that surrounded them. Yet, deep within, Lisa could still sense an undercurrent of fear waiting to surface. "Let us take a step back," Lisa said, raising her voice with newfound importance. "Before we talk about the forum, we need to be honest about what we've done. We owe them that much." A few members of the crowd exchanged uneasy glances. Jake squeezed her hand, silently reinforcing her point. Lisa took a deep breath, grounding herself in the moment, even as her pulse raced. "We've let people down. There are families who lost loved ones, communities shattered. We've ignored their pain for too long," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "And now, facing this truth, we must ask ourselves, what are we willing to do to make it right?" A quiet murmur rippled through the crowd, the anger from before giving way to something deeper, self-reflection. "Testimonies can't just be facts and figures," Jake added, stepping up beside her. "Their lives. These people need to know we hear them, and we care. That starts with us, right here, right now." Lisa nodded, heart racing. "Let us commit today to be part of their healing instead of the cause of their pain." Just as hope began to sprout in some, the man who brought the papers to light stepped forward again, his voice trembling. "I have to admit, I was one of those who kept quiet. I thought it'd protect our community. But in reality, it's only made things worse." His confession sent ripples through the room, like a pebble dropped in still water. The weight of shared guilt wrapped around them. It wasn't just Lisa and Jake who bore the burden, but everyone present. "I want to help," he continued, his eyes locked firmly on Lisa. "I need to face the consequences too. We can't keep hiding." A wave of courage swept through the crowd. One by one, people began to step forward, sharing their heartbreaks and fears. Each story broke like waves against rock, exposing soft places hidden under layers of neglect. Suddenly, amidst the emotional tide, the distant sound of footsteps echoed outside. Conversation stuttered, and all eyes turned toward the door as it swung open. A pair of police officers entered, faces tight with authority, but softened by understanding. They paused at the threshold, exchanging glances before stepping fully into the room. Jake's heart sank. He thought of all the things they had avoided, the truths that were at stake. What would they think of this gathering? The lead officer spoke first, voice steady but laced with fatigue. "We heard about the meeting. We needed to be here. It's time we all faced the music together." As the crowd began to murmur, suspicion riding high, Lisa felt something shift in the air. It was a pivotal moment, ordering their truths to collide. Was this a chance for redemption, or just another facade masking deeper issues? Her heart raced again, not with fear, but with the thrill of potential. And in that moment, amidst the chaos of confessions and unexpected arrivals, Lisa realized they were standing at a cliff. The winds of change whipped around them, and it was time to jump. What lay below could either be a new dawn or a sharper descent. Just then, the lead officer stepped forward and locked eyes with Lisa. The tension in the room amplified as he spoke slowly. "We've come here to explain and to listen." What would that mean for them all? Would they be allies or adversaries? And could they truly carve a path toward healing together? A thick silence loomed after the officer's words. The crowd, a mix of unease and anticipation, shifted uncomfortably. Lisa could feel the weight of all those stories still hanging in the air, waiting to be set free. The lead officer glanced around the room, taking in the faces that had rallied to share their truths. "We've been out there feeling the pulse of the community," he began, his tone measured yet sincere. "There's an urgency to talk about this, and we want to understand what you're feeling. The last thing we want is to come in here and make things worse." His sincerity resonated with Lisa, but the lingering skepticism from the crowd sent a ripple of tension swirling back. Some folks crossed their arms, while others shot wary glances at the door, as if expecting reinforcements. Jake stepped forward, the edge of his voice wavering slightly. "What changed?" "Just a few days ago, public trust was at an all-time low." "Because we realized something important?" the officer replied, with eyes that held a hint of vulnerability. "Ignoring the pain won't make it disappear. It'll only fester. We have to face it together." Lisa recognized that look. The kind of truth that demands reckoning. Could this really be a step in the right direction? Hope fluttered inside her like the fragile wings of a butterfly, momentarily suspended in the air of uncertainty. One woman from the back finally lifted her hand, shaking slightly. "Why should we believe you? Each time something goes wrong, we're told it's an isolated incident. But how can we trust you now?" Her voice quivered, and the desperation of her words struck a chord. Everyone felt it, the collective pain of betrayal, a vulnerability laid bare before the very people who were supposed to protect them. The officer nodded, acknowledging the gravity of her question. "We can't ask for trust without showing our intentions. We're here to listen, to understand why past actions hurt you." He turned to make eye contact with the others behind him, the second officer gesturing for them to come forward. Moments later, they stood shoulder to shoulder, showing solidarity. "Change is happening," the second officer added. "It's not easy, but we're committed to altering the narrative. We have to address the wrongs that were done." Tension still hung thick in the air. Lisa took a breath, deciding it was time to step in. If we're really doing this, if we're ready to heal together, everyone has to speak their truth. No more hiding. Jake nodded in agreement, his eyes meeting hers with determination. If the police are going to confront their mistakes, we should do the same. What has kept us silent for so long? The crowd started to murmur among themselves, the hum of discontent becoming a soft chorus of emotions. Moments later, another person raised their hand and shyly admitted, "I was scared. I didn't want to be the one who made things worse. It's easier to stay quiet." "Easy isn't what we need anymore," Lisa said firmly. "We're here because we all want something different, right? We can't grow if we just shrug each other off." Tension still lurked in the air, but something else was brewing, weaving its way into the fabric of the gathering. A unity formed in their shared willingness to confront the uncomfortable truths sitting in their hearts. "Perhaps we could also create a way for this forum to be ongoing," the officer suggested. "Not just today, but a continuous dialogue. A bridge. So we're not just talking at you, but working alongside you." A ripple of murmured agreement surged through the crowd, an acknowledgement of this new allyship. Lisa's heart raced with the weight of possibility. The officer's words painted a picture of hope. But then, amidst that swell of cautious optimism, uncertainty crept in again. What would follow from this open dialogue? Would the police be genuine in nurturing this new relationship, or would it crumble under the strain of old habits? She could feel the air growing thick with uncharted territory, a place they had never dared to explore. As conversations began to ripple again, each voice intertwining with the other, Lisa caught a glimpse of something shimmering in the distance. It was a pathway forward. Yet the question loomed heavy. How would they take their first steps into the unknown? With every heartbeat, they stood on the precipice. Was this the moment everything changed? Or would old patterns pull them back into darkness once more? A low buzz filled the room as more voices dared to rise. Lisa felt her heart quicken. This was what she had hoped for, people ready to break their silence. It was unfolding right in front of her eyes. A young man stood up, hands shoved deep into his pockets, his eyes darting like he was weighing something heavy on his mind. "You think just talking is going to change things?" he scoffed, the words spat out with frustration. "Words don't mean a thing if there is no action behind them." The officer nodded slowly, clearly absorbing the weight of the comment. "You're right. It's not just about words. It's about the steps we take next." He paused, taking a deep breath. "We want to create real accountability, to change the way we police this community. But we can't do this in a bubble. We need each other." Lisa felt adrenaline seeping through her, igniting a strength she didn't know she had. "So this is how it starts," she said, her voice steady as she locked eyes with the officer. "It takes guts to speak out. You're right, it's not just talk. We need action, and action starts with each of us facing our truths." Another woman chimed in, her voice a poignant thread weaving through the air. "But how do we trust that this isn't just another false promise? How do we really know that change is coming?" The room echoed with the murmur of agreement, as Lisa nodded in recognition of their collective doubt. It was raw, palpable. "We start small," she suggested, her mind racing for a path forward. "How about we each share one story? Just one, and we hold each other accountable for listening and acting." Jake's eyes lit up. "That's it. Let us build trust by sharing where we've been hurt." His enthusiasm began to spark a shift, a glimmer of hope. As people began to raise their hands one by one, Lisa felt the safe space morph into a sanctuary where pain could be exchanged for understanding. The young man, who had been so skeptical moments before, was the first to share. He spoke of an encounter where he'd been wrongfully accused, the heat of humiliation still evident in his demeanor. One by one, stories poured out of fear, of anger, of moments that tethered them to helplessness. Each tale resonated like a drumbeat, echoing in the silent spaces around them. Lisa could see the officer shifting, their expressions taut as they absorbed the impact of the community's echo trauma. But then, the heavy weight of silence returned as one elderly man stood up, trembling but determined. It's easy to blame the cops for our pain, but we also have to look at our own fears, our own failures. It's time for everyone to take responsibility. His words hung in the air, like thick smoke. Lisa's brows furrowed. Could they truly hold space for mutual accountability? She glanced at Jake, who nodded thoughtfully. With a collective sigh, a new understanding fluttered in. They were no longer just victims against their oppressors. They were all participants in a narrative that shaped their community. Yet, as the crowd talked about these moments of vulnerability, the question lingered like smoke: could they truly navigate this jagged road together? Would the officer's earnestness hold up under scrutiny, or would they find themselves reflecting only the conflicts of the past? Just when things seemed to settle, the atmosphere shifted again. A figure was spotted at the back of the room, eyes locked on the meeting. The crowd quieted, curiosity rippling like a wave. Who were they? Someone new, someone unexpected. Lisa felt a shiver of anticipation. She couldn't shake the sense that whatever this stranger had to say could tip the scales of understanding into a new direction. But what would it mean? What secret weighed on their heart? As she looked into the crowd, Lisa could feel all eyes turning towards the newcomer. Would they become a bridge or a barrier? The stranger stepped forward, their silhouettes slicing through the dim light of the meeting room. With each step, the air thickened with tension, a blend of anticipation and uncertainty weaving through the gathered crowd. Lisa held her breath, feeling every heartbeat echo in her chest. "Excuse me," the newcomer said, a calmness lacing their voice that contrasted sharply with the fraying nerves of the room. Long, flowing hair framed a face etched with both pain and resolve. "I'm sorry for interrupting, but I've been listening. I think it's time I share my story." Lisa's pulse quickened. This could be pivotal. The figure paused for a brief moment, collecting thoughts before launching into their narrative. "My name is Alex. A year ago, I found myself in a situation gone wrong. I was just walking home one night, minding my business, when I was stopped by officers who insisted I looked suspicious." The murmurs intensified among the crowd. Lisa leaned in, completely captivated. "I ended up in handcuffs," Alex continued, the weight of their words hitting hard. "They accused me of a crime I didn't commit. I was treated like I was less than human." Their voice quivered but steadied as they pressed on. But what hurt the most wasn't just being arrested. It was later, sitting in that holding cell, the shame washed over me like a tidal wave. I realized then, I was just a pawn in a game that many have played before. The balance in the room shifted. People shifted uneasily in their seats. Stories of fear and pain now converging into a single powerful voice. I didn't understand at that time, but it was also a catalyst, Alex added, meeting the eyes of the officers scattered across the room, one at a time. "When I was released, I made a decision to gather the courage to speak up. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but if there was any chance of change, it had to start here." In that moment, Lisa saw again the faces of the officers. Some frowned, others looked down. A few visibly winced. Feeling a surge of connection, Lisa spoke up. "You're absolutely right. We need to hear these stories, to learn from each other. But it seems we also ought to prepare for the uncomfortable truths about ourselves." She glanced around, each person absorbing the moment, grappling with their own feelings. Alex nodded, appreciation softening their demeanor. "Exactly. Only together can we work through the anger and mistrust. That's why I'm here. I want to be part of the movement that creates change. But I need all of you to not just listen, but to act." The room fell into a deeper silence, punctuated only by the soft clicking of pens and the rustling of papers, as individuals sought to capture every word, every thought. The officers exchanged whispers, their vulnerability now apparent. "I know this is scary," Jake chimed in, his voice clear and strong. "But facing the truth shouldn't feel like a fight. It should feel like a beginning." There was something in the air, a collective heartbeat that resonated with hope. Lisa could feel it rising, inching forward, propelling them further along a path that had seemed uncertain just moments before. Then Alex took a step toward the front, drawing everyone's focus back. "If we really want to change the narrative, let us create a forum where stories like mine can be shared, meetings where victims meet officers, where real conversations can happen. Open dialogue, not just once or twice, but regularly. We need to dismantle this wall of distrust." The room buzzed with excitement, a flicker of hope. But just as Lisa felt a surge of possibility, a sudden noise at the door made everyone jump. The sound of scraping metal echoed through the space. Eyes darted toward the entrance. Someone was trying to enter. Who was it? Another secret that could shatter this fragile moment? Lisa's heart raced. Was this another voice for change, or perhaps a sign that their vulnerability had attracted something worse? As tension gripped the room again, she felt her breath hitch. What or who would step through that door? The door swung open with an eerie creak, and everyone held their breath. Standing in the doorway was a tall figure, silhouetted against the dim light, casting a long shadow across the room. As they stepped forward, faces morphed from skepticism to surprise. It was Jessica, the niece of the man falsely accused all those years ago, the one whose life had been upended by the very police they were now trying to engage. Lisa's heart pounded, a mix of dread and hope swirling within her. The room had become a vortex of emotions that threatened to spiral out of control. Jessica's expression was resolute, yet tinged with the waves of hurt. "I couldn't stay silent anymore," she said, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "I need to speak. Things have been buried too long." The crowd shifted, senses heightened, prepared for whatever truth she would unveil. "I've watched my family suffer from the fallout of what happened to my uncle," she continued, her eyes scanning the faces before her. "The shame, the anger, it ripped us apart. And the cops who framed him just walked away without a second thought." Gasps resonated as she laid bare the pain they all felt but had barely begun addressing. Faces in the crowd reflected a myriad of emotions: guilt, anger, disbelief, as the truth of Jessica's statement settled in. "Now, after witnessing your attempts today, I'm here to say, this can't be another empty promise. Dialogue is only the beginning. Actions are what really matter," Jessica proclaimed with unwavering strength. Lisa nodded, determined to meet the weight of her words with sincerity. "You're right. We have a mountain to climb. It'll take more than words. It will take commitment. A pledge to not just hear, but to enact change, and to rebuild the relationships we have shattered." Jessica stepped closer, her voice softening. "We need to see real accountability and justice for families like mine who suffered the consequences of misguided actions. If we are to heal, we need to face every echo of pain." The crowd stirred, caught in that moment of recognition. Jake placed a hand on Lisa's shoulder, grounding her with the warmth of solidarity. "I can't change what has happened, nor can I erase the hurt that has been done," Jake added, his breath emerging as soft whispers of determination. "But I, like all of us, have a responsibility to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Jessica, we want to honor your pain, while also fostering a future of perseverance and trust." Jessica blinked back tears, heartfelt gratitude mixing with an underlying anger, and she cast her gaze across the crowd. "Then start today. Start with understanding that we're here in this together. I know it all feels heavy. But my family, like many here, needs to see action, or hope will fade away again." The temperature in the room shifted. It was no longer merely a gathering of tension, but a space filled with purpose, a narrative woven from shared suffering. Lisa felt the intensity rise, a palpable shift as the crowd warmed in willingness to embrace that collective responsibility. Jake stepped forward alongside Lisa, fortifying their front. "We will create joint panels, workshops, and safe spaces. It's going to be messy, but healing takes time and effort. The commitment starts today." The crowd collectively exhaled, a blend of relief and anticipation coursing through the air. Perhaps they could change the tide. But just then, the distant wail of a siren pierced the atmosphere once again, sparking anxiety as old habits whispered threats in the back of their minds. Was everything truly shifting, or just an illusion? "We'll face the sirens," Lisa said fiercely, catching the collective gaze, their eyes alight with shared resolve. Together. As Jessica stood there, the crowd united in her truth, Lisa felt a profound connection form. A shared strength surged within them like an electric current. They didn't know what lay ahead, but in this moment, they had chosen to meet their fears head-on. It was their chance to inscribe a new chapter, one of bravery, accountability, and unwavering hope. "Are you with us?" Lisa asked, her words an invocation, a call to the collective soul of the room. One by one, heads nodded, and murmurs of agreement transformed into a chorus. "Yes!" they cried out in unison, a resounding affirmation that echoed against the walls. With renewed energy, they took their first steps together, not into chaos, but towards a united front, ready to confront the past while striving to carve out a future where every voice mattered. And in that unity, shimmering like morning dew, was the promise of redemption. Now was the time to act. Now was the time to support each other. The real journey had only just begun, and they knew that change wouldn't come easy. But they also knew they had each other. It felt like the alchemy of transformation, all stirring within, as they stepped forward together into the open air, ready to rewrite their shared story. Now, more than ever, the need for community stood strong. And they would not walk away. They would rise, break the chains that shackled their past, and embrace a newfound commitment that made them all better. This was only the start of a long road ahead, but they were willing to walk it together. And so the call to action cleared through the air. To all our viewers, don't wait not even one more second. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that continue to inspire. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because together we can grow stronger. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this transformation. Your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful journey unfold. You need to support our mission. Only true fans understand the importance of backing the community through these actions.